Hello everyone, I've got a bit of a different video for you guys today. So, I have a friend who's been working on a really big project, and they said that I can, leak some of the project here on YouTube. Now, I was all up for this. This was a really cool idea, dropping secret information for like 3 people to watch. I like most of my long forms. But for anyone there who is actually watching, I'm going to give you a few seconds, because this is a big project, and if you don't want to hear it, then that's fine. So I'm going to talk about what inspired me to do this while I give you time to click off. So I was inspired to do this by the Yapparoon. I would definitely recommend watching his channel. I will try and link that in the description below. It's an amazing channel, and I've been taking inspiration off him. This is more to leave in the background, clean your room, cook some food, or do something. I don't know what you guys do in your free time. But, pretty much, yeah, I hope you clicked off by now, because if you hadn't, then, I'm going to begin, so turn off the video if you don't want to hear, because I might actually do a part 2 later on. This is only covering what has been done so far. So I think first of all we need to review our main character, who's called Pretty Much. She's a slave girl for the chief. Now, that wasn't how she always was. For her first 15 years of living, man, I said that fancy. Yeah, long story short, she's 15 years old, and her mum was talking to someone. Now, we don't know much about this man. We don't know his name. We don't know his appearance. We just know he's a man. Presumably a slave trader who's pretty much someone in this fictional universe that will buy people as slaves and sell them off to make profit. Pretty disgusting way to live, if you ask me. But pretty much, our main character's mother does end up selling her off, and she becomes the chief's slave. Now, the chief lives at a place called Blackwoods Academy, which is pretty much a school/academy kind of training ground for things called black masks. These things, when they first enter the school, are given a white mask, which gives them the ability to move at really, really quick speeds. Now, this isn't always like this. On the Eclipse Festival for the final year, you will be given your black mask, which officially means you're free, pretty much. You're free to leave the school, leave the grounds, and have now just a life. Do what you want, really. But obviously not for some, as our main character has proved. Now, on the first day, our main character meets up with a girl who's also a slave called Immy. Now, Immy orders her to make some tea for the chief, and when our main character delivers the tea, she is whipped for being 5 seconds late. Not the nicest. That just shows the brutality of what the chief will do. Anyway, moving on. The next day, she's ordered to bring a boy up to her office called Callum Gray. Now, on the way down, she's interrupted or stopped by a boy called Jack, who we will touch on briefly later. So far, he has not been that important. At the time of recording, he hasn't done too many significant things. But luckily, she is saved by Callum. Now, when she also... Oh my goodness, I'm horrible at this. Pretty much, on the same day as delivering Callum, she was meant to deliver a letter to Blackwood's blacksmith. Now, she does this, but before she does, she opens it. Now, the letter, she thinks, is going to be information on how to escape. It's not. It just says, It's starting in 2 weeks, work quicker. Something along those lines. It was a while since I read this. Now, this obviously is no help whatsoever to our main character, but we're introduced to her emotions, which in this fictional universe have the ability to become human. So there's a big drama of her fear, her anger, her pain, all coming to life in the shape of the chief to then torment her in the blacksmiths. But she's saved by a boy called William, who we will touch on later. Now, we also get introduced to Finton, who's the blacksmith. Again, we'll touch on him a bit later. Man, I'm saying touched on later a lot, but oh well. Guess you all just have to deal with it. Anyway, after she does, the next morning, it's found out that Finton noticed the letter was opened and told the chief, which results in our girl's most painful punishment yet. The chief holds a knife over a fire and then uses the boiling hot tip to carve an E into the skin above her heart. She passes out and starts wandering through her memories of 2 major events. The first one is she sees a girl being sent off to become a slave, and the second event is sneaking out to when her mother made the final agreements to selling her to the slave owner I mentioned earlier. This is kind of it. When she wakes up, she pretty much, she's saved. She's collecting sand for the chief's bath, but ends up collapsing in the dunes and nearly dying out of exhaustion. But Callum comes along and promises to deliver her some moon glow to help her with the damage done. It's touch and go for a while in the story on important events that I don't think are necessary right now. I don't have much time left to talk about the other characters. I've spoken for way too long about this one person. But pretty much she tries to suicide. Instead, she lives. She's saved by someone called Nina, who works in the Resistance as a healer. She has the ability to heal wounds by just completely absorbing them into herself. She doesn't suffer from these wounds, and even if she does, she doesn't speak up. So the only word she's ever said was her name to the leader called Ross. There's a few other members in the Resistance. Like I said, we have Ross and Nina. We also had Ella, who had some kind of attachment to our main character and wanted to protect her. We also have Amy, but we haven't seen too much of her yet. Anyway, our main character gets sent back to Blackwoods, but on the carriageway there, she ends up passing out again from her emotions coming to life. Now, the emotions are stronger than we thought. Her emotions, quite literally, have the ability to reopen wounds that would have originally scabbed over or have healed. When she wakes up, she meets a girl called the Original. I should have mentioned her earlier, but I kind of forgot to, because I'm doing this without a script, but oh well. Pretty much the Original is just the oldest slave girl there. But anyway, she had her eye removed after our main character attempted to suicide out of the pain. And now she hates him. That is all that's happened to our main character so far, so let's move on. The next person I want to talk about is Callum Gray. You know, the boy that saved our main girl from Jack, saved her from the dunes, gave her moon glow. Yeah, that's him. Callum acts differently than most of the students in Blackwoods towards slaves. He tends to be a lot nicer and a lot calmer around them. While most people will treat them with hatred and pain, he decides he doesn't like to feed off people's pain and only fights really to burn energy rather than the love of killing. We know Callum has a brother. He's called William. You know, the boy I mentioned from the blacksmiths. Yeah, they're brothers. But Callum had another brother. He was called Oscar, but died falling off the same cliff face, which our main character tried to suicide off. We know Callum gets quite upset at the mention of Oscar's name, but we don't know exactly who killed him. We know it's linked to the chief, and we know it's also linked to Jack, which is why when Callum's around Jack, he tends to get filled with just pure hatred towards him, and any mention at Oscar's name from Jack ends up making him fight. This has landed him in trouble, which landed him and his friend Grace on night watch. While there, they had a delivery of a slave from a husband and his wife. The girl is none other than our main character, who we were talking about just a few minutes ago. She's been sent back by the Resistance, obviously to spy, but Callum and Grace don't know this. Callum suddenly wants to save our main character from Blackwoods. He wants to take her away. You might have also noticed I've been mentioning this Grace person quite a bit, so I think she deserves a bit of an explanation as well. Grace is simply Callum's friend. Just another person who he met on probably day one. We don't know exactly at the time of recording. Grace and him stay rather close, which is why she obviously ended up in trouble with Callum after having his fight with Jack. While we're talking about Callum, I think we should also mention something else he did that I didn't touch on earlier. When our main character tried to kill herself, Callum saved her. Temporarily. He managed to hold on to the back of her dress when she was about to fall, but was unfortunately not able to fully save her, which is why he suddenly felt massive memories of Oscar coming back. But he can't fully understand why he has these feelings towards our main character. He's never felt like this before, but he has certainly defended other slaves from torture. I understand these character descriptions are becoming a lot shorter, but that's because while I record right now, I've only seen most of just the main character, who I mentioned first. So I guess I have time to describe some other characters. For starters, I think we should talk about Immy. Immy was the other slave I mentioned when our main character was there on day one. Now, Immy was at first rather quiet, but has become more growing and loving towards the girl. When our main character even returned, Immy revealed a massive secret. On the first day, there was a nameless character who woke up at the same time and followed Immy outside of the cell where they all sleep. Now, this was obviously insignificant at first, until she disappeared. When our main character disappeared, Immy reveals that the other girl was her sister. I'll just be referring to her as the sister, as we do not have a name. The sister was taken up to the chief's room and somehow thrown out. We don't exactly know where she fell from, but she fell from a very high place, as she was, killed by the chief for allowing our main girl to take her own life. This destroyed me as a person, and now, when talking with our main girl, she mentions that her sister was the last person of her family who cared about her. Remember that. Who cared, not alive. I think next, we'll touch on the original. The original doesn't have a name other than the original. Really, I should have touched on this character earlier on, but I kind of forgot to. But I think I will. The original was first introduced when our main character came down to the slave quarters to ask Emmy who Callum Gray was. She doesn't speak. All we get is her description. Most of it focuses on the scars she has on her face and body. Overall, the original doesn't like to reveal much about herself. She's 17 years old and been there the longest. Originally, the original grew towards our main character, but stopped when she ended up supposedly exploding a wall. Man, there are some big sections I forgot to mention. Guess they're all finding out now. As I said, the original's eye was removed with a knife, and now she has a deep hatred towards our main character, even saying some brutal things. Here's probably one of the only quotes you'll get from the thing, or the project, at the given time. When our main character returns for her mission, she's given a liquid. This liquid is revealed to be called deathweed. Deathweed doesn't kill, but it makes a person feel like they're going to die, more commonly known for people drinking a serum of it and then wanting to take their own life as a result. Now, this is when, here we go, I guess you all get a quote. That's deathweed for you. I can't do anything about it, and even if I could, I would never help you. That's all you're getting from me. I don't think you need much more information on what the original has and what her opinions are towards our main character. Here's a really short one for you. Ross. Ross is the leader of the Resistance, and we don't know much about him other than his appearance of dark-skinned and red-haired. There is honestly not much to know about him. We know that he had a close contact toward our main character's father. We don't know our main character's father's name, but we know he was given a nickname in the Resistance. That nickname being the Griffin, a mythical beast meant to represent the power he brought to the Resistance when he was around. This is what inspires Ross to send our main girl to Blackwoods again, as he believes that our main character will have the same fire that her father did long ago. Ross doesn't have much more information at the given time of recording. Here's one I should have mentioned a lot earlier on. The Chief. The Chief is simply just the leader of Blackwoods. There's not much else to say. Oh yeah, there's a few other things, I guess. The Chief is described to be the queen of slaves, and overall gives out some of the most brutal punishments towards her slaves. These things involve basic things like lashings, and basically being kicked, punched, hit. Then they start getting worse, as literally shutting down someone's heart, which she did to our main character. Yep, she did it. We also obviously know about the deathweed she gave out. The chief is simply just a cruel woman who doesn't need much more explanation. We don't know much about her in the story as she stays mysterious, but we know she hates the resistance. I think that'd be obvious since they're trying to stop what she loves to do, punishing little children. Since I have lots of time left, I guess I'll talk about some of the smaller characters. Just so we all know about them. Let's start with Finton. Finton is an old man and pretty much just the head blacksmith. He hired William to be his apprentice, and he seems to be the one who had the idea of the E-carving for a punishment. He really enjoyed it, which is evident in the description, which I won't read because you've already had your quote of the video, guys. Overall, Finton doesn't have too much importance in this story, or at least for now. Like I say, for now. Let's head back in time, shall we? Let's head back to before our main character became our slave. The main character's mother is not too important other than what she did. The main character's mother is described to just have become the town drunk after the griffin was killed. Because, they were together. Duh. It's kind of how love works if you didn't know. I know that half my viewers probably relate to me with that. Me? My word, I'm honestly going insane, guys. I've been talking for way too long. Anyway. Yeah, the main character's mother, though, she probably wasn't always like this. I don't know, my friend won't reveal much information, except the fact she cared deeply about the main character's father, I guess. Well, there's not much else to say about her. Now that I've done most of what I wanted to do, I think I might give you some backstory. Let's hope my friend doesn't get annoyed at me for this. Like I've said, most of the story focuses around Blackwoods Academy. What I've neglected to mention is the fact this is split into two parts at the time. Part 1, Hell on Earth, and Part 2, the tournament. Part 2 is also the part where we get deeper into Callum's story. The first part mostly revolved around our main character. But then when Part 2 hits, we start focusing more on Callum. I'm not entirely sure what this means for the story, but this could be key. I mean, how do I know? My friends told me as much as I've told you on this video. Man, there really isn't much else to say. Now that I've explained all of this, I think I might as well go over some of the theories we have in the group. Like I said, this friend of mine is obviously not my only friend, and he's obviously revealed the information to many others. So, I think I might delve a bit deeper into some of the other theories. Some people believe Oscar was never real. They say he was simply just Callum's emotions getting the better of him, as proven earlier on with our main girl, the shadow appearing in the shape of the chief, showing that emotions clearly take form of what the person feels. For obviously our main character, fear and pain. For Callum, maybe it was again fear and pain, but the desperation for comfort. Another big theory is that the girl died in her fall. It's believed that Nina doesn't heal people, but rather just brings their soul back. The lifeless corpse then takes control of itself and then acts out as a human. I don't know. Maybe this means that she'll be pulling off some wacky magic tricks that will allow her to die again and again, and I'm not going to say any more agains, otherwise I might go crazy. I've been talking for too long, guys. I'm not used to this. Alright, I guess those were the two biggest fan theories. There isn't much else to say, but I think I might as well just say what I want to say. If you enjoy this kind of secret content, then maybe consider subscribing and asking for a part 2. This has taken me way too long, and for the brief amount of information my friend obviously gave me, I didn't have much to work off. I am hoping this is good enough for most of you, and I can already see Yapparoon just complaining this was not good enough, or this is not an appropriate yap, but I really don't know what to say. I've said what I've wanted to say, and I guess I might as well just come out and say it now. Let's just let my past self say what it needs to say through just wave. Bye!